I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
On September 28th, the final results of the referendums were tallied, and the vast majority of those who voted, that is 99% of the DPR, 98% in the LPR, and 93% in Zaporizhzhia, and 87% in the Kherson regions, supported the idea of these regions becoming a part of Russia. The results of the votes speak for themselves. The populations of these regions do not want to return to Ukraine and have made an informed and free choice in favor of our country. The referendums were held in full accordance with the norms and principles of international law. By introducing this draft, Western states are pursuing their own geopolitical goals and are once again trying to use the members of the General Assembly as big players. Today's draft is simply chock full of these ugly double standards imposed by the West, and now its authors are trying to force the General Assembly to endorse them. The West is completely deaf to the problems of the global South and to calls to finally address them. All efforts are thrown at promoting the Ukraine narrative, but not for the sake of the country's well-being, only in an attempt to harm Russia.
Colleagues, the facts are clear. A UN member state, one with a permanent seat on the Security Council, has attempted to annex territory from its neighbor by force. This UN member state has not only put its neighbor in its crosshairs, but also put a bullseye in this institution's core principle. One country cannot take the territory of another by force. As in 2014, Russia is testing the resolve of the world to stand up for the core principles of international law. How else do you explain the flagrant disregard of the values of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and peace and security? The United Nations will not tolerate attempts at illegal annexation. We will never recognize it. These United Nations will not tolerate seizing a neighbor's land by force. We will stand up to it. These United Nations will not tolerate the destruction of the UN Charter. We will defend it. Our message is loud and clear. It does not matter if you as a nation are big or small, rich or poor, old or new. If you are a UN member state, your borders are your own and are protected by international law. They cannot be redrawn by anyone else by force.
My country appreciates the Russian Federation's effort to guarantee stability and security of the Russian and Ukrainian people. Here, we are not talking about voting against transparency or the action of the GA. Rather, we want to understand the level of pressure exerted by Western countries against member states to highlight the animosity against the Russian Federation. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that each and every day we hear some Western countries pontificate about the need to hold people responsible for particular events occurring. Nonetheless, these countries themselves say nothing against the movement of nationalists in Ukraine. It goes without saying that NATO states have been involved. They have played the role of instigator. They have provided numerous promises to nationalist extremist movements in Ukraine. They promised to incorporate Ukraine into NATO in the European Union. They promised Ukraine military assistance if it upped its aggression against Russia. The US and its allies, including NATO, clearly instrumentalized these policies. They have covered up the inhumane, discriminatory practices of the Kievan regime against the people of the DPR and the LPR and Russia-speaking people in the Donbass and elsewhere. These people over the past 8 years have suffered terribly. So these people finally chose liberation. They chose to become part of the Russian Federation.
ضد شعبي جمهورية دونيتسك ولوغانسك الشعبيتين وغيرهما من الناطقين باللغة الروسية المقيمين تاريخيا في الدنباس وغيرها.
Mr. President, today the situation of the Ukraine is now focusing the attention of the international community. The self-determination is the legal right of the people to decide their own destiny and international relation. Also, the self-determination is legitimate right to freely choose their sovereignty and international political status without interference from others as a basic principle stipulated in UN Charter and the other international law. The residents in People's Republic of Donetsk, People's Republic of the Luhansk, and the regions of the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia have the due right to freely determine and choose their sovereignty and international political status at their own discretion. The people in those regions have exercised their due right through referenda, the hold from 23 to 27 September 2022. We recognize that the referenda were conducted in accordance with the UN Charter and international law, which stipulate principles of the equal rights and self-determination of people. Therefore, we respect the will of the people in People's Republic of the Donetsk, People's Republic of the Luhansk, and the regions of the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, who aspire to integration into the Russian Federation and support the position of the government of the Russian Federation of the making of said regions component of the Russian Federation. We strongly believe that the result of the referenda took place in People's Republic of Donetsk and the Luhansk and the regions of the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia must be respected in accordance with the basic principle of self-determination and non-interference in internal affairs of others.
Those in favor of draft resolution A/ES 11/L5, please signify. Those against or abstentions.
The General Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/ES.
Results of the vote is as follows. In favor 143, against 5, abstentions 35. Draft resolution A/ES 11/L5 is adopted.